AITA for cutting off my family after they chose Cancun over my son's funeral? I was Rachel, 50, Ethan's mom, still carrying his gray hoodie in my car because I couldn't bring myself to move it. When my parents and sister chose Cancun over his funeral, something in me went completely cold. I had spent most of my life being the daughter who swallowed things. My mother, Linda, called it maturity. My father, Martin, called it keeping the peace. My younger sister, Nicole, called it not making everything about me. Ethan used to roll his eyes whenever I let them talk me into apologizing for something I hadn't done. He would lean against my kitchen counter, all long limbs and crooked grin, and say, "Mom, you know you're allowed to have a spine, right?" I would tell him not to be rude, but I always laughed because he wasn't wrong. Ethan was 21. He was warm and funny in a quiet way, the kind of person who texted me pictures of weird grocery store signs and still asked me to save him leftovers when I cooked too much. He had a worn baseball cap he kept saying he was going to replace and never did. He had a gray hoodie that smelled faintly like his laundry detergent, and whatever cheap cologne he thought made him seem older. He had a small savings account I'd been adding to whenever I could because I wanted him to have choices I didn't have at his age. My family liked the idea of loving Ethan. They liked birthday photos with him. They liked commenting "our handsome boy" under my posts. My mother loved telling people she was a proud grandmother. Nicole liked using him for cute aunt content online, especially when he was little and would tolerate being hugged for pictures. But behind closed doors, I was always the one expected to make things easier for everyone else. If Nicole needed money, I was supposed to help because she's your sister. If my parents needed help with a bill, paperwork, a repair, or a ride, I was supposed to rearrange myself because family steps up. If I pushed back, my mother sighed like I had failed some secret test of daughterhood. "Rachel, why does everything have to become a problem with you?" she would ask. So I learned to stop making things a problem. Then Ethan died. I'm not going to describe the details. There are parts of that day I still can't say out loud without feeling like my ribs are closing around my lungs. It was sudden. It was the kind of phone call that turns a normal afternoon into a before and after line across your life. After that, time stopped behaving normally. I remember sitting across from the funeral director while he spoke in a soft voice, like every word had been wrapped in cotton. He asked me questions I could barely understand. Traditional or modern? Burial or cremation? Which photo for the obituary? Did I want music before or after the slideshow? I stared at 2 pictures of Ethan on my phone for 10 minutes because in one his smile was clearer, but in the other his eyes looked more like him. My hands shook so badly I had to put the phone down on the desk. The funeral director gently said, "Take your time." But there was no time. There were forms, calls, prices, dates, people asking what happened, people asking where to send flowers, people asking what they could do, when I didn't even know how to breathe without feeling like I was betraying my son by still being alive. That night I called my mother. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Hi, honey. Everything okay?" I opened my mouth and nothing came out at first. Then I said, "Mom, Ethan is gone." There was a pause. "What do you mean gone?" I told her. I heard her inhale sharply. I heard my father in the background ask, "What is it?" My mother cried for maybe 30 seconds. I don't say that to be cruel. I remember it because I was desperate for her to cry longer. I needed her grief to feel big enough to stand beside mine. Instead, after a few minutes of questions, she said, "Have they told you about arrangements yet?" "I'm meeting the funeral home tomorrow," I said. "Well," she said carefully, "keep us posted on the date." I didn't think anything of it then. I was too numb. The next day, after the funeral home appointment, I sent the details in our family group chat. The service was set for that Friday. It was the only date that worked with the funeral home, the cemetery, and the people closest to Ethan. I wrote the time, the address, and a short message that said, "Please be there early. I reserved the front seats for you." My mother replied first. "Friday." Then Nicole. "That's the day we fly." I stared at the screen. They had planned a Cancun trip months earlier. My parents and Nicole had talked about it constantly. Matching resort shirts, excursions, ocean view room, all-inclusive package. I knew about it, but it had never crossed my mind that my son's funeral would be weighed against a vacation. I called my mother immediately. She answered with that cautious voice she used when she already knew she was about to disappoint me, and wanted me to feel guilty for noticing. Rachel, honey, I just saw the message. Then you saw the service is Friday. Yes, but are you sure it has to be that week? I went completely still. What? We leave Friday morning. Your father already checked us in online, and Nicole paid for excursions. Maybe the funeral home can do another day. Mom, I said, my voice breaking, I am planning my son's funeral. I am not planning a brunch. I know that, she said quickly. Don't twist my words. I'm only saying there might be options. There aren't. This is the date. My father took the phone. He didn't sound sad anymore. He sounded irritated. Rachel, we already spent the money. I'm not asking you to fix this, I said. I'm asking you to show up. He sighed. Crying in a funeral home won't bring him back. The sentence hit me so hard I had to sit down. My mother said something to him in the background, but he kept going. This is a terrible thing. Nobody is saying it isn't. But your grief doesn't mean everyone else has to lose thousands of dollars. I whispered, he was your grandson. And we loved him. He said like he was correcting me. But his death is your grief, Rachel. It's not our problem to solve. I don't know how long I sat there holding the phone after he said that. Then Nicole called me. I almost didn't answer, but some stupid part of me thought maybe she was calling to say she'd talk sense into them. Instead, she said, before you start, I need you to understand something. I closed my eyes. Nicole, I can't just waste an entire resort package. My son is dead. I know, and I'm sorry, but I already paid for excursions. And Mom and Dad have been looking forward to this forever. Ethan's funeral is Friday. And we'll say a prayer on the beach, she said, like that should comfort me. He wouldn't want everyone to stop living. You didn't even know him well enough to say what he would want. That made her tone sharpen. Wow. Okay. So now you're going to gatekeep grief. I hung up. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I just sat at my kitchen table with condolence cards stacked beside me and Ethan's baseball cap on the chair across from mine, like he might walk in and grab it. For the next 2 days, I planned my son's funeral while they packed for Cancun. I wrote the obituary at 2:13 in the morning, deleting and rewriting the same sentence because beloved son felt too small. I made a memorial slideshow on a USB drive and checked every picture twice. Ethan at 7 with missing front teeth. Ethan at 12 pretending not to like the birthday cake I made. Ethan at 18 in that gray hoodie, giving me a thumbs up from the passenger seat because he had finally passed a test he'd been nervous about. At one point I put my head down on the kitchen table and whispered, I'm trying, baby. I'm trying to make it right. My parents sent one text the morning before the funeral. Thinking of you. This is hard for all of us. We will pray for peace. Nicole sent a heart emoji. That was it. On the morning of the funeral, I drove there with Ethan's hoodie folded on the back seat. His baseball cap was on the passenger seat. I couldn't bring myself to leave it at home and I couldn't bring myself to wear it. So it rode beside me like the outline of him. The funeral home smelled like flowers and coffee. People hugged me gently like I might break apart if they squeezed too hard. Ethan's friends came in red-eyed and quiet. One of them, a tall young man I had only met twice, hugged me and sobbed into my shoulder. He was so good to people, he said. I held him while he cried, and for the first time that day, I felt surrounded by people who actually understood that Ethan had been real. Not a family photo. Not a social media caption. Real. 3 front seats were reserved for my parents and Nicole. They stayed empty. I tried not to look at them, but empty chairs can be loud. Aunt Carol leaned close to me before the service began and whispered, Where are your parents? My throat closed. They couldn't come, I said. She frowned. Couldn't. Before I could answer, the funeral director gave me a small nod. It was time. The service started. The slideshow played. Ethan's crooked smile filled the screen, one picture after another. I heard sniffles behind me. Someone laughed softly at a photo of him wearing sunglasses upside down. I wanted to turn and tell everyone the story behind it, but my voice wouldn't have worked. Then the flowers arrived. Late. A small arrangement was carried in during the second song. The card was handed to me afterward. It said, Thinking of you during this difficult time. Love, Mom, Dad, and Nicole. Ethan's name was spelled Ethan. Thin. I read it twice because my brain refused to accept it. My son had been in their lives for 21 years, and they couldn't even spell his name correctly on the card they sent instead of themselves. I folded the card and put it in my purse. After the service, people moved slowly around the room, speaking in low voices. I was standing near Ethan's casket when my cousin Mara came up to me. She looked pale and angry in a way I had never seen before. "Rachel," she said quietly, "I don't think you should see this right now." That was when I knew. "What is it?" She hesitated. "Mara." She turned her phone toward me. It was Nicole's post. My parents and Nicole were standing on a beach in matching resort shirts, holding cocktails. The ocean was bright behind them. My mother had one hand thrown in the air like she was celebrating. Nicole was smiling wide, sunglasses on her head. The caption said, "Family time is everything." Under it she had added, "Life is short, make memories while you can." It had been posted during my son's funeral. For a second all the sound in the room went distant. I could see Ethan's casket beside me. I could see the empty reserved seats. I could see the misspelled flower card in my purse. And on that screen I could see my family smiling in the sun under a caption about family. Mara pulled the phone back. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have shown you here." "No," I said. My voice sounded strange. Flat. "Can you send me that?" She blinked. "What?" "Send it to me." "Rachel, are you sure?" "Yes." She sent it. I didn't cry then. I had already cried so much I felt hollowed out. What I felt in that moment was different. It wasn't hot anger. It wasn't panic. It was cold clarity. Something inside me closed a door. After the funeral I went home, put Ethan's cap on the kitchen table and turned off my phone. I sat in silence for a long time. The house felt wrong. Not empty exactly because grief fills a house. It fills the corners. It sits in chairs. It waits in hallways. When I turned my phone back on that evening, there were messages from people who had attended the service. Ethan's friends sent photos, memories, little stories I had never heard. One girl wrote that Ethan once walked her to her car every night for 2 weeks because someone had been making her uncomfortable. Another friend sent a picture of Ethan asleep on a couch with 3 dogs piled on him. Then Mara texted, "I'm sorry. I didn't know whether to send these, but you deserve the truth." Below that were screenshots from a family group chat I wasn't in. I stared at the first one. Nicole. "Rachel is going to milk this forever." Linda. "She is in pain, but she does make grief very heavy for everyone." Martin. "We paid too much for Cancun to sit in a funeral home crying." Nicole. "She acts like we killed him." Linda. "Ethan was her child. This is her tragedy. We can support from here." My eyes stopped on that line. Ethan was her child. This is her tragedy. As if he had not called my mother grandma. As if my father had not posed with him at graduations and birthdays. As if Nicole had not used his face in posts about being a proud aunt. There were more. Nicole. "I'm not spending Ethan's funeral week on hold with customer service." Martin. "Exactly. The money is gone either way." Linda. "Let's not discuss it too much. Rachel will only turn it into an attack." Mara had circled one message in particular. Nicole. "Technically we could move it, but the travel credit thing is annoying and the ocean view room won't be guaranteed." I read that sentence over and over. Technically we could move it. They had told me it was impossible. Non-refundable. Thousands wasted. No options. But there had been an option. They just didn't want the hassle. The next morning Mara called me. "I didn't want to make things worse," she said before I could even say hello. "You didn't. I should have spoken up sooner. You gave me the truth." She was quiet for a second. "There's something else." I sat down. She told me Nicole had called the airline and the resort after I sent the funeral date. Because it was a family emergency, they had offered travel credit. Not a full refund, but enough that they wouldn't lose the trip. The resort had even offered to move the booking within a certain window. Nicole had complained in the chat that it was too much hassle. She didn't want to lose the ocean view room or the excursions. I thanked Mara, hung up and opened my banking app. I don't know why I checked. Maybe because once someone shows you who they are, your mind starts pulling at every loose thread. 3 months earlier, Nicole had texted me. I hate asking, but I'm really behind and I don't know what else to do. I need help with utilities before they shut everything off. I had sent her money. The memo said, help with bills. I found the date. Then I looked at one of the screenshots Mara had sent, where Nicole mentioned making the resort deposit. Same week. My stomach turned. I scrolled through old texts. Nicole thanking me, sending crying emojis, saying she would pay me back as soon as things even out. Then a week later, she had posted about needing vacation outfits. I sat there with my phone in my hand and felt the last soft part of me toward my sister disappear. Then Mara sent one more screenshot. This one was from my father. Martin. Once the funeral dust settles, she'll calm down. She always does. We still need her signature on the house documents, and she knows we need help with the expenses this year. My mother replied, give her time. She won't abandon us. She's hurt, not heartless. Nicole added, she'll come around when she needs family again. I put the phone down and actually laughed. Not because it was funny. It was the kind of laugh that comes out when pain has no other exit. They thought my grief was temporary. They thought my obedience was permanent. That was their mistake. I did not call them screaming. I did not leave angry voicemails. I did not write a giant post that night while I was shaking. I made coffee I barely drank. I opened my laptop. I made a folder and saved every screenshot. I downloaded Nicole's Cancun posts before she could delete them. I took a photo of the sympathy card with Ethan's name misspelled. I saved the texts where they complained about the funeral date. I saved Nicole's old messages asking for bill money. Then I started removing access. My parents had emergency contact status on several things because I had always thought that was what family did. I changed it. Nicole had access to a shared warehouse account I barely used, but had let her order from. I removed her. My parents had a spare key to my home. I scheduled a lock change. Every automatic transfer I had set up to help with my parents' house expenses stopped that day. I boxed up the things they had left at my house over the years. My mother's serving dish. My father's tool bag. Nicole's extra suitcase. A stack of holiday decorations my mother always stored with me because I had room. I put the boxes by the front door. Then I emailed an attorney named Mr. Hayes, who had helped a coworker of mine years before. In the subject line I wrote, family boundary, repayment demand, beneficiary changes. When he called me later, his voice was calm and professional. I'm sorry for your loss, he said first. I almost cried just because he said it without making it about himself. In his office I laid everything out. The money Nicole owed, the family house paperwork my father expected me to sign, the accounts and emergency contacts, the small savings I had been building for Ethan, the memorial fund I wanted to create in his name. Mr. Hayes listened without flinching. At the end he said, you don't need to explain a boundary for it to be valid, but we can make sure your decisions are documented. So we did. Nicole received a certified letter requesting repayment of the money she had borrowed for bills. My parents received written notice that I would no longer contribute to house expenses or sign paperwork without independent review. All communication about money or legal documents had to be in writing. I updated my beneficiaries. None of them would benefit from my accounts, my belongings, Ethan's keepsakes, or anything connected to the memorial fund. The money I would have used helping my parents went into a modest scholarship fund in Ethan's name. Nothing grand. Nothing dramatic. Just a small start. Something that belonged to him, not to people who couldn't spell his name on a sympathy card. They returned from Cancun 5 days after the funeral. I knew because Nicole posted a picture from the airport with the caption, back to reality. Reality met them faster than they expected. That evening my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw all 3 of them on my porch. My father stood stiffly with his arms crossed. My mother held a tissue even though she wasn't crying. Nicole looked annoyed, not nervous. I opened the door only as far as the chain allowed. My mother's face shifted immediately into wounded concern. Rachel, she said. Finally. We've been calling you. I know. Nicole looked past me. Are you serious? You changed the locks. Yes. My father's jaw tightened. Open the door. No. For a moment nobody spoke. I had never said no to my father like that. Not without softening it. Not without explaining. Not without apologizing afterward. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. What is wrong with you? He asked. I looked at the three of them standing there with sunburned noses and vacation tans, and I thought of Ethan's friends crying beside his casket. You need to leave, I said. My mother pressed her tissue to her mouth. Rachel, grief is making you cruel. No. Grief made me honest. Nicole scoffed. This is about one picture, isn't it? I posted one picture. You're obsessed. I saved the messages. Her face changed. Just a flicker. But I saw it. My father said. What messages? The ones where you said Ethan was my tragedy. The ones where Nicole said she wasn't spending his funeral week on hold with customer service. The ones where you said I'd calm down because I always do. My mother's eyes filled then, but not with grief. With panic. Those were private conversations. So was burying my son without you. Nicole stepped closer. You're acting like we killed him. No, I said. You abandoned him. There's a difference, but it still matters. My father pointed toward the boxes by the door. What is all that? Your things. You packed our things? My mother asked like I had done something obscene. Yes. My father's voice hardened. You're really going to destroy this family over a vacation? There it was. The summary of everything they were. Ethan's funeral had become a vacation in his mouth, because that was the part he valued. I opened the door a little wider, still keeping the chain on. No, I said. You destroyed it when you made my son's funeral less important than a resort deposit. My mother flinched. We prayed for him from the beach, she said. I stared at her. Then you should have stayed on the beach. You don't get to stand on my porch and use his name now. He was our grandson too, she whispered. Then you should have acted like it. Nicole's face twisted. You know people are going to side with you because you're making us look horrible. I'm not making you look like anything. I reached to the small table beside the door and picked up the envelope from Mr. Hayes. I slid it through the gap. Nicole, that is a repayment demand. Mom, Dad, that includes notice that I'm no longer helping with the house expenses and won't discuss paperwork unless it's through my attorney. My father stared at the envelope like it had personally insulted him. You went to a lawyer? Yes. For family. For people who use that word when they want access. My mother started crying for real then, but it still didn't move me the way it once would have. Ethan wouldn't want this family divided, she said. I felt my hand tighten on the door. He wouldn't have wanted empty chairs in the front row either. Nicole snapped. You're being cruel because you know people will feel sorry for you. I looked at her and thought of the utilities transfer, the resort deposit, the ocean view room. You used my money to help pay for Cancun. She went silent. My father turned toward her. What is she talking about? Nicole's mouth opened, then closed. I said, you asked me for bill money. I have the text. I have the transfer. I have the dates. Pay it back. My mother looked from Nicole to me, suddenly less interested in grief and more interested in damage control. Rachel, let's not do this on the porch. We're not doing anything, I said. You're leaving. My father stepped forward. You cannot cut off your parents. I already did. Then I closed the door. My hand shook after the lock clicked, but I did not reopen it. They stood outside for several minutes, ringing the bell, knocking, calling my name. I sat on the stairs with Ethan's hoodie in my lap and waited until they left. The next morning, Nicole posted online. It was vague, of course. People like Nicole never tell the whole story when half of it makes them look bad. Grief changes people, she wrote. Some people choose cruelty instead of family. Please pray for healing. My parents are devastated by how they're being treated after losing their grandson. My mother shared it with a broken heart emoji. Then the messages started. Some relatives asked gently what was going on. Others clearly believed Nicole's version. Rachel, I know you're hurting, but don't shut out your parents. Your mom is heartbroken too. Family needs each other during grief. I read those messages while standing in my kitchen beside the condolence cards from Ethan's friends. Cards that had actual memories in them. Cards that spelled his name correctly. I could have ignored Nicole's post. Part of me wanted to. I was so tired. My bones felt tired. But then Aunt Carol called. Her voice was careful. Rachel, honey, I need to ask you something. I closed my eyes. Okay. Were your parents in Cancun during the funeral? Yes. Silence. I asked your mother, and she said there was confusion with the date. There wasn't. Aunt Carol inhaled sharply. Oh, Rachel. That was when I decided I was done letting them use vagueness as a hiding place. I did not rant. I did not write paragraphs about every wound they had ever given me. I made one short post. It said, for everyone asking why my parents and sister were not at Ethan's funeral, they chose to go to Cancun after being told the service date. They were offered travel credit and chose not to reschedule. During the service, Nicole posted beach photos captioned "Family time is everything." The flower card they sent spelled Ethan's name wrong. Please do not send condolences through them. I will not argue about this again. I included the timeline. The date Ethan died. The date I gave them the funeral information. The date they flew out. The screenshot of Nicole's Cancun post. The photo of the card spelling Ethan's name as Ethan. One screenshot where Nicole wrote that moving the trip was too much hassle. One screenshot where my father wrote, we paid too much for Cancun to sit in a funeral home crying. Then I turned off comments. I didn't need a debate. I needed the lying to stop. The fallout was not instant, but it was steady. Aunt Carol called me crying. I'm sorry I asked you that at the funeral, she said. I didn't know. You didn't do anything wrong. I should have known something was off. We all should have, I said softly. Relatives who had been sending me gentle lectures started sending apologies. Some were awkward. Some were embarrassed. A few said nothing at all, which told me enough. Nicole deleted her post, then made another one about people weaponizing grief. Nobody seemed impressed. Her comments were full of people asking why she had been in Cancun during the funeral if the story wasn't true. My mother tried to post about family healing, and Aunt Carol commented, healing starts with accountability, Linda. That comment stayed up for 6 minutes before my mother deleted the whole post. My parents lost invitations. Not all of them. Families are complicated, and some people would rather stay comfortable than take a side. But enough changed that they felt it. Holiday plans suddenly became smaller. Phone calls went unanswered. People stopped asking my mother to collect money for anything connected to Ethan. That last part mattered most to me. They did not get to stand near his memory and collect sympathy like it belonged to them. Nicole received the certified letter and called me 12 times. I didn't answer. She texted, "You're really going to make me pay you back while I'm grieving too?" I replied once, "Communicate through Mr. Hayes." She wrote back, "You're disgusting." I blocked her. My father tried a different route. He emailed me a long message with no apology in it. It was mostly about how family house expenses were not optional, and how he hoped I would think carefully before making emotional financial decisions. I forwarded it to Mr. Hayes. My mother mailed me a card. Inside she had written, "Ethan would want us together." I sent it back unopened after taking a photo of the envelope. She didn't know what Ethan would want. Ethan would have wanted them there. Or if they couldn't be there, he would have wanted them humble enough to be ashamed. They were neither. The memorial scholarship started small. A few of Ethan's friends donated $20, $10, whatever they could. Mara contributed. Aunt Carol sent a check with a note that said, "For the boy who deserved better from all of us." I cried when I read that. Not because it fixed anything. Nothing fixes burying your child. But because it was honest. I made sure the memorial page was simple. Ethan's photo. His name spelled correctly. A short paragraph about his kindness, his humor, and the way he noticed when people felt left out. Donations went directly into the fund, not through my parents, not through Nicole, not through anyone who wanted to turn grief into performance. One afternoon, I sat on my living room floor with a small box of Ethan's things. His baseball cap. A few cards from friends. A movie ticket stub he had kept for some reason. The gray hoodie was beside me. I still couldn't wash it. Mara came over and brought soup I didn't ask for but needed. She sat on the floor with me and didn't try to make me feel better. After a while, she said, "Are you scared you'll regret cutting them off?" I ran my thumb over the worn brim of Ethan's cap. I regret letting them stand so close to his life when they didn't value him. Mara's eyes filled. I added, "I don't regret protecting what's left." The first time I visited Ethan's grave after everything settled, I brought flowers and wore his hoodie even though it was too warm outside. My phone was off. I didn't want messages. I didn't want apologies that were really complaints. I didn't want my mother's soft guilt or my father's practical cruelty or Nicole's victim posts. I stood there for a long time. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I'm sorry I kept giving people chances to treat us like we were asking for too much." The wind moved through the grass. Somewhere nearby, a car door closed. Life kept making ordinary sounds, which felt unfair and comforting at the same time. "I saved the good cards," I told him. "The ones from people who showed up. Your friends wrote beautiful things about you." I wiped my face with the sleeve of his hoodie. "And I'm done, Ethan. I'm done being the daughter who forgives everything just so everyone else can stay comfortable." My parents and Nicole came home from Cancun expecting me to still be the same Rachel. The one who apologized first. The one who paid bills. The one who opened the door. The one who would eventually calm down because I always had. Instead, they met the mother who had buried her son and had nothing left to give them. I stayed no contact. Not because I stopped grieving, but because I finally understood that grief does not require me to keep people close who made the worst day of my life worse. Blood did not give them the right to use Ethan's name after treating his funeral like a scheduling problem. His hoodie is still in my car sometimes. His cap sits on a shelf near the condolence cards. The scholarship fund grows slowly, in small honest amounts from people who actually remember him as a person. And my family no longer gets access to me, my money, my home, or his memory. They chose Cancun. I chose Ethan. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.